Thanks everyone for joining us today. So as usual, myself and Sue are here to host the session, and we've got Janki with us. So this session is really following on from our previous Support Hub session, where we talked about how we can prepare students for placements. So Janki is going to talk to us a little bit more on how we can set expectations for students, how we can enhance their induction experience and their well-being, while the students are on placement. So just to provide some context in terms of the wellbeing aspect, we're aware that many students are the first in the family to go to university. Often they can come from deprived neighbourhoods, low-income families. They might lack role models or confidence in how to behave in a social or work setting outside of their social and economic context. This has obviously been perpetuated by the pandemic and increased online activity. And so these issues have led to an increased number of wellbeing and mental health issues. Some students might have caring responsibilities. They might also be balancing paid employment on top of the unpaid placement. So hopefully today's session, Janki will be able to provide some advice on how we can provide a positive induction experience for the students and how that can have a positive impact on their mental health and wellbeing in general. Over to you, Janki.
Thank you, Tahmina. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm Janki Kavi. I'm the Training and Development Manager at Northwest London Pathology. And thanks to Sue and Tahmina for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to connecting with everyone and sharing some thoughts on this topic later on in our discussion. So you're probably here because you watched the Support Hub session on securing placements, and today we're picking up from there. So you're set to start or host a placement, and you're thinking, well, what comes next? And in parallel to that, as Tahmina outlined in the introduction, there's now a growing focus on wellbeing and awareness, and starting in university settings. So how can we, as laboratory placement providers, align with some of that? And an answer to that, over the past few years, I've overseen 50 student placements at Northwest London Pathology, and one thing the team and I've learned, and we keep learning, is how important student wellbeing is. And at the heart of it, we think a really thoughtful, supportive induction, setting those expectations for behaviours and just the support that's for them is really important. So a quick show of hands, actually, very quickly. How many of you on the call here have been on a student placement yourselves? So I'm not sure if it's working for you, but your hands up if you've been on a placement yourselves.
Yep, I can see 7 hands, 8 hands up.
8 hands up, okay. Okay, that's quite a lot. I don't know why. I wasn't expecting many hands up, so that's really good. Great. So all of you know firsthand what the experience feels like, and while the rest of us will go through today, what it looks like for students who are going through it and why getting it right matters. So thank you for that. So back to today's session. In the first few slides, I'll cover some good practice around onboarding and wellbeing, and then we'll zoom in on how we've built and evolved our approach at NWLP. And the aim is simple. We all leave today with a few easy to apply ideas, myself included, to take back to our teams. So let's get started. So, whether you're a student or not, everyone is nervous or has questions about their first day. I mean, all of us. And so, with students, especially, introduction to team roles and expectations is a must. And I think we all recognize that really well. We're becoming quite good at it. And clarifying, learning goals and expectations, use of induction checklists. So again, having those standardized experiences for everyone, and, a pre-placement briefings. And I think they could be, we're all very busy, so they could be very quick. I mean, this week, in my part of the world, we have a 1-week work experience going on. And last Friday, we were short on time, but we gave everybody a really quick check-in call to understand, how are you feeling? Do you have any questions? And, just starting to build that rapport and reaching out and making it clear that we want you to contact us, and we don't mind. So psychological safety, what is it? So it's about, providing a safe environment for students to ask questions, raise concerns, and how can you do that in your laboratory? And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is through mentorship and buddy system. And, providing information, that's a quick way, signposting to services, here's who's available and around you to support you, and being flexible in our approach, especially around working patterns. So we give all of our university students 1 day off a week, and they have control over when they take that during that week, and a little bit also around wellbeing awareness. So we have wellbeing champions located across our teams, and our placement teams are very experienced at hosting and supporting placements as well, and awareness has been increasing year on year. Partnership working with universities or colleges, and we have close active relationships with our university and college partners. So students see placement as part of their education, and it's not an isolated bolt-on experience. We started off by making sure there's some really good agreements in place that underpin our understanding between the partnership, and from a student's perspective, we're being proactive about well-being together, quickly flagging concerns and working together to support students, holding joint meetings. So it gives students clarity, consistency, and reassurance that they're being supported from both sides. So starting a student placement, I haven't been on a student placement myself, actually, but I often think of me going to the gym, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then 30 minutes later, I'm Googling what the half the equipment does and how to use it. So, transition from university to a workplace is a shift, and it can catch some off. I mean, just think about the first time you set a foot in the laboratory. And some I have heard experience this thing called imposter syndrome. So feeling like they don't belong, or even when they're perfectly capable. So early encouragement, some conversations here can really help, and confidence naturally does dip during the early weeks, not for all, but some it can be the case. So that learning environment can really help, and having built those safe spaces, invested in those early relationships and that rapport. Placements can feel isolating, especially if students are in an environment that they're not used to, and this is where your buddy system can kick in as well. And finally, it's no secret, students are more than often they're juggling placement duties, academic deadlines, reg portfolio deadlines, and a part-time job, and they may have additional responsibilities as well on top of that. So regular check-ins and flexibility where possible, we found really helps. So let's switch focus then to what we're doing at Northwest London Pathology, where we've been on a real journey with placements, and we're still learning every year. We run a mix of programs. So we've got the university placement program, we've got T-levels for the 16 to 18-year-olds, and we also have a 1-week work experience, again, for 16 to 18-year-olds. And to just to provide some context, we're a really large network. We have 3 partner hospitals, 7 sites, over 1,000 people, a process 65+ million tests. So really busy network. And yes, there were challenges starting out, but there were even more opportunities to create a great placement experience, and also sort of helping and enabling a large number of placements as well. So we're going to focus a little bit now on the student university program that we have, and pre-placement. So before students even set foot in the department, we know the experience starts much earlier, at the interview and during the pre-placement phase. So this is where we have a real opportunity to ease anxiety and build some of that early rapport and engagement. We've introduced an easy to follow placement handbook. So it covers everything from what to expect on day one, dress code, who they'll meet, what happens at interview, practical details like how to get their lunch options, all those little things that make a big difference. But, those setting those really early professional expectations as well. And we found that this can reduce first day nerves. Plus, it starts to help standardize the experience, because if you're talking to them, then some people will take away different things. Having it in a handbook has helped, and we've had good feedback around that. Interviews are also a chance to assess what they're thinking, are their expectations, and even flag any early support needs. So our selection process is designed to draw out strengths in our candidates and identify areas of development. And we've offered placements knowing a student will need additional support in certain areas. And so, our well-being focus has already started in terms of adjustments. And we're also, very open in asking, do you have any adjustments you need to make for the interview? So we know very early on what support is required that we need to put in place. So onboarding at NWLP, what does that look like? So in 2022, so going back a bit, I was practice educator at the time for Northwestern Pathology, and alongside Angela Jean-Francois, our director of operations, we were coming out of COVID, and we started to build a student program. And what was a one-off induction week specifically for a group of students starting in September later went on to be an award-winning all staff and placement induction. So, by introducing students into the workplace, it starts to benefit all of our programs, and it's something that we pulled across to all of our staff members. So, and why does this work? Because it enables really a single point of connection, orientation, and information for those getting started. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, how did you design it, or how could we design it, and this onboarding week? And I'm going to say to you, well, think back to your own induction. What was missing? What do you wish you'd known on day one? And that was literally our brief, and that's exactly what sparked this idea. It started as many good things do in a corridor conversation between Angela and at the time the director of people. We were standing outside an empty lab, and we asked ourselves, what if there was one clear way of starting all of our students, one place to connect, get them orientated, help them build their confidence? Because one of the barriers at the time was, our placement laboratories were very concerned. Oh God, students they're in an unfamiliar environment. We may not have the capacity. So how can we best prepare them? That was the idea. And that's how we shaped our 1 week induction, designed not just to, tick boxes, but we genuinely really wanted to go out there and prepare them for their placement journey. And you might be thinking, well, what happens in that first week? I mean, going back to that corridor conversation, you can see the mind map on your screen. That is everything that came out of that 10-minute, 15-minute conversation. And I went back and I jotted it down, and then I created this mind map a week later, and it's been a reference point ever since then. We have now an engaging welcome workshop with the executive team. They set the tone. It's really important for them. And we have introductions to key contacts, wellbeing champions. We have a standardized health and safety workshop. We give them time to do mandatory training, and this is for all staff as well. There's a calm, dedicated space away from busy labs to focus on learning. We give them a practical session on learning the quality management system, the IT systems. There's a really good interactive all-day good laboratory practice course in the training laboratory, and that's highly rated and priceless for student placements and those new to laboratories as well. We also deliver customer care training as part of this. So that includes handling challenging situations, managing emotions. So again, that really helps in preparing them for real life scenarios. And there's clear signposting to career pathways in pathology and beyond. And one of the most important decisions I think was keeping this 1 week face to face, especially after COVID. This meant that students could make real connections. They could learn together and leave the first week feeling confident and part of a team. And how do we know it works? Because we were very keep asking them for a lot of feedback, everybody. And this is what we found. And students consistently reported feeling more prepared, more confident, and more connected from the start. And we'd read on the feedback form, "Thank you for helping me understand my role more. I feel confident. I feel less anxious about starting. Wonderful induction. It gave me a comfort zone and increased my confidence. Lab training helped me adjust and get ready for my new role." And as they go on into their week, they'll cover what often turns out to be a big source of pressure, which is getting the registration portfolio completed. And again, we realized that onboarding for all of our students was really important, and this is also available to all of our staff members. So again, it's just the what, the where, the why, and the how. And at this stage, they will have received some reading during the summer that we expect them to do, to lead on this themselves. And in this session, it's a repeat of some of the resources that are widely available, and some hints and tips on how to approach their learning. They'll create their own plan. They'll be introduced to our online portal, again, with just information, hub space. They're given a handbook and lots of encouragement at this point, and then they go through their learning goals. And again, this is another really good point to outline those expectations, especially those who are on a university program who are trying to do their portfolio, that they're joining this program, and at the end of it, they will be registering as a biomedical scientist. So there are certain expectations around behavior, and we find that when you set the tone right, it really, really helps. I mean, something I wasn't going to mention, but it helps that we also have a values and behavior session delivered by a director of people, and again, that really helps getting that right in terms of their professional expectations as well. But from a well-being perspective, it removes a lot of uncertainty. And then perhaps, I don't know, maybe creates a different set of worries when it comes to portfolio planning and the deadlines and so on and so forth. So, before students even step into the lab, they've had this 1 week induction. They're already briefed. They know the basics, the lab do's and don'ts, the mystery of what a rota is, and how the day should run. All of that's gone through. But we all know things really come together once they're actually in the environment, and that's why we don't know, the local induction is very critical. So we've prepared them, and we've told them it's now over to you. You have to build those relationships in your team. You have to understand what's happening around you. And so meeting their manager, their placement manager, their team, connecting with a buddy, running through a practical checklist. This all happens on their local induction. So things like the locker, the fire, the tea room, all essentials. And it's also a big part of having a sense of belonging. And our placement teams are very proactive and highly supportive of this approach. So, psychological safety. One of the key strengths of our program is having a dedicated pathology education facilitator who's there to support both the students and, importantly, our placement teams, because that was a concern when we're setting up the student program. So we introduced them early on to V. So, for example, we tell them, V will be looking after you, and she's a fantastic student coach, and she's here to track and support you as well. And that personal connection from day one really helps put the students at ease. It's pastoral care. We have regular monthly check-ins to pick up on early signs of stress and keeping them on track with their portfolio. And they can actually access via any of the pathology education facilitators anytime. We also coordinate shared projects, helping students work together, and they'll check in regularly with each other during the portfolio clinic, so they're not just isolated on their own. And the role really acts as a bridge, supporting students and placement teams. I was talking, was it maybe last week, to a student who's coming to the end of their program, and I asked her to share some highlights, and she said the whole placement was wonderful. Everyone was fantastic. But one thing she noted was she really enjoyed a time working on joint group projects when they were taken out of their placements. And so that's already something that we're now going to incorporate for the next cohort, and making sure we have regular in-person check-in points as well. So the student university program, just that part, again, that partnership working with HEIs, we have strong relationships, and that's really key when it comes to that shared responsibility. And also, you know, how does this work for us? From year one, the students who are potentially going to start with us at Northwestern Pathology, we build relationships through introductions and early meetings with students at the university. So the team will go there, we'll tell them, we've got this program if you're interested in it. And so there's that sense of familiarity, and when they come to interview and they're waiting in the corridors, they recognize us and they'll say hello. So again, it starts to help build a really good positive sort of, you know, engagement with yourselves and with your laboratories. We have clear routes of escalating wellbeing concerns, and if we do have issues, students have access to an independent advocate through the university and a fair resolution process. And either through that, you know, the course tutor or our own pathology education facilitator. And mostly we find they tend to use the latter. But just a comment around, you know, feedback as well when from the course lead when they've come in for their in-person visits to check in on students. They find that the students at NWLP, you know, they're quite confident and they're a central part of the team, and they're very comfortable speaking up. And that's something that, you know, we always encourage from the beginning. So, you know, from a student perspective, we have found all our students who want to become a biomedical scientist after graduation, they want to return. And I'm sure all of you here probably have similar experiences, but we wanted to make this easier for them still. So last year we introduced our student post-placement program. And, you know, again, it's just checking for 1 year after you've graduated. So again, it provides them support and it keeps them connected to news, to events that are happening. They have access to all of that, some additional support, and importantly, job postings. And you can see Andrea here, we're over the moon. She's just one of our many returning students. She's from the last year's cohort, and she's now due to start with us at Northwestern Pathology, and we're thrilled. So we have learnt a lot during the years, and here's why we do some of the things that we do. We now pair up students. We didn't have that in the first year, and they now have, you know, that buddy system. They've got each other. And we heard things like, you know, everyone in my lab was a bit older than me. It would have been nice to have been with another student. Why we have monthly check-ins. I was getting stressed about the portfolio, and the check-ins and on-demand support helped me get through that. Why we have student badges that read, you know, I'm a student on placement, because some staff who rotated were not aware that they were student. Why we offer bank work, because we know that, you know, the bank work has really helped them financially. And why we offer flexibility and 1 whole day a week for study. We've heard that I had so much going on, I would not have finished the portfolio without this help and support. And, you know, just a note here around well-being and energy, and what we're finding as well, what we have found and learned from is when we think about well-being, we were initially focusing on time management and making sure students have enough hours and to get everything done, but actually it's also energy management. So you can give a student a free afternoon, but, you know, if they're running on empty, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, just, you know, not engaged, it won't make much of a difference. So, you know, we encourage them actually to recognize this as part of their own lifelong learning as a BMS. And, you know, it isn't about working longer, it's about finding something that works well for you and staying well and connected. And this reflects the recent updates that for the HCPC standards with a greater focus on personal well-being for biomedical scientists. So, you know, we coach and support them through some of that thinking early on. We have had students rotate through, you know, different types of placements, so very, very small number, where they'll come in to do the corporate placement or lab placement. They're on a biomedical science course, and sometimes I'd hear someone, you know, was struggling in one of the settings, and I'd catch up with them later, and they're on a different setting. Maybe they're in the lab now, or they're out of the lab. And they're thriving in that different setting, and it's really interesting. I find that very, very interesting. And then, you know, they tell me that they felt really energized and they were really motivated because, you know, what they realized is that particular environment just wasn't for them, and that's what they've learned on that placement. In some cases, we do have some students who won't be able to go on, and we recognise that maybe now is not the time. We review these on a case-by-case basis, offering wherever possible reasonable flexibility, and with emphasis on reflection and returning to placement and building healthier and stronger habits. So this is a photo from our annual NWRP symposium that we just had, I think it was last month, and this is where this photo is from. So Avi's here on the left of me, I'm in the middle, and she's our student placement lead alongside Espresso from London South Bank University, and with all of our students, and they've just been announced joint poster winners. So it's what happens when students are empowered. We also gave them a platform and supported them through that day. An environment is created to allow for those really strong and meaningful peer-to-peer connections. So some were nervous, but doing it together made all the difference, and they were not doing it alone for the first time. There are other type of placements we have started this year. Our T-level, our T-levels placement, the 45-day placement. And there's also work experience, which is a 5-day placement, which I'll talk about in the next slide. I mean, in all honesty, this could be a whole session in itself. With T-levels, again, they will have, the selection, onboarding support, and the 1-week induction. And in the case of T-levels, we provide a lot of support with, job roles and job plans. They're a lot more, younger adults. And so we do provide a lot more of that. And before we started our pilot, we did a lot more and even more extensive training for the whole placement team and the placement manager in terms of, how to manage some of that. Again, we have a dedicated pathology education facilitator looking after this program. So Ines on this occasion, who leads this. And we'll go a little bit more further with these placements, because they come in once or twice a week, and they are quite infrequent. So there's weekly in-person check-ins for this group, and we've also provided some additional on-the-job training and coaching to help ease some of them into this sort of placement. So again, very close partnership working with the college has led to this. It's enabled us to really build, I think, a really strong blueprint for the next year, and we'll be asking and looking at a lot of feedback and reviewing this as well going forward, and looking to sort of scale this program up next year. Finally, we have the work experience running actually this week. As I mentioned earlier, it's a 5-day program. So on Monday, I went through expectations with this group. They attended as part of the induction. On Tuesday, they were dropped off by the training team to their placement. And that's where they are right now. We're checking in on them. And on Friday, they'll get a multidisciplinary tour of our hub site with Angela Jean-Francois, our Director of Ops, and a careers talk with our practice educator, Mewish Khalid. So hopefully we'll get some people who are interested in biomedical sciences at the end of this. So yes, placements are keeping us very busy right now. And if you're wondering what the work experience looks and feels like, I think I've got a video. I'm not sure if it'll work, but I'll try playing it anyway. Can I quickly ask and check, can everyone hear the sound?
Yeah, it's working fine, Janki. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm always looking forward to seeing the different types of sections of the lab. So I came in here, I didn't realise there are those different sections. There's chemistry, haematology, referrals, microscopes, blood transfusions. So I think having such a variety has been really exciting and interesting.
I don't think I knew that much about clinician scientists before, but now I feel like I've gained a better, wider perspective, and I realise how important they are in our society.
I would say that one thing I would take away from my experience is gaining hands-on experience, because I think that for me, I am a very practical student more than a studious student, and I think that it would help me in the future to create that type of experience that can help me pursue my goals.
In the future, I'm thinking of going to a field such as biochemistry or something to do with blood, to lab work, thought this would be a great opportunity to get some actual hands-on experience before I want to make a decision in the future.
I would recommend this work experience to other students because I think it's very valuable, and you can understand the career, you can understand the purpose of other clinician scientists, and if it could be a career that you could possibly do in the future.
I would definitely recommend this to other students because the diversity in Northwest London pathology is rich, and there are various different amount of tasks you can do. So yeah, I would definitely.
I've really enjoyed today and been able to show our work experience students around the Charing Cross Hub Laboratory Service. It's been really exciting to be able to showcase everything that we do across all of our laboratories and to really engage and embrace the future generation of healthcare scientists.
One thing I just wanted to quickly share with everyone is that before we started the work experience program with the 16 to 18-year-olds, everyone, myself included, we were quite concerned actually about bringing young adults in, but we really planned and thought it through, and we were pleasantly surprised, and you can see in the video how engaged and all the students were, and you know it changed and shifted our opinions, and we'll, you know, this year again we're doing a bigger cohorts of student work experience and supporting that in a really big way. So that was a pleasant surprise to actually find that this, you know, students were really engaging even at that age. So in summary then, if there's one thing to take away today, it's this, you know, a good placement experience doesn't happen by accident. It's built through, you know, a clear induction in whichever format and shape that, you know, works in your laboratories, and everyday kindness and a person-first approach. Small actions like a warm welcome or a quick check-in can really shape someone's confidence for years to come, I think. And, you know, when, you know, the help that we had with leadership supporting policy design and delivery, you know, when leadership champions these values, it really filters down to every part of the student experience. And ultimately, it's simple, isn't it? We're investing in students' well-being, we're investing in the future of our profession, and HCPC's well-being standards are also a signal that, you know, hands-on well-being is just not a perk, it's, you know, it's essential. So thank you. Maybe I can stop sharing my slides and bring Sue and Tahmina in.
Thank you, Janki. We've had a few comments in the chat. So a few people are interested in one of the slides that you shared. I think it was on slide 12. They were asking to see a copy of the programme that you'd set up, just to see whether they can replicate that. So yeah, hopefully, you know, we can try and share that across all regions. If you'd be happy to share some of the details.
Yeah, and I'll also pop in the chat, you know, our contact email address at NWLP, so if anyone wanted to directly get in touch. So yeah, that's also possible.
Thank you, Janki. Any questions?
I think some people asked, it's kind of a follow-on question to what you just said, actually, Tahmina. Somebody was saying, Stephanie said she needed to leave because she's got a diary clash, but really keen to know how you got the team set up and running, what kind of business case or financial proposal, what did you put together to get buy-in to be able to get this set up, because it's working beautifully, but I think people are kind of a few steps behind, so they're just kind of wondering how can they replicate what it is you've done, Janki? So would you mind explaining where this came from and what you needed to get in place to be able to set up the provision that you've got now?
So that's a really good question, and I think I spoke about this very briefly going back when we started. You know, we started with university student placement programs back in 2022 when, you know, I was practice educator, and at that point we didn't have anything. There wasn't even a central team, and it started with conversation, actually, like I said, in the corridor around what we wanted to do, and getting some of that senior buy-in and getting them on board with our idea. And I do recognise also, you know, that not everybody, you know, has the luxury or the facility. We just happen to have a spare laboratory, which we've converted, but you can deliver it in so many different ways. Sometimes all you need is a room. to sit and talk and go through and replicate some of that. But in terms of getting it started, I think having those conversations and getting people on board, one conversation at a time, I'd say. And then the other thing I'd say is starting small. In our first year, because of the size and complexity of our organisation, we were able to support 20 students. But it might just mean that you start small, and that's exactly what we did perhaps with the T levels. So one of a key part of that was listening to everybody and understanding what the concerns were. And they were very good, very valid concerns, actually. And then we went back and we said, well, how are we going to mitigate against this? And how are we going to mitigate against that? And, we said, well, can we have a risk assessment for T levels or, students? And we put that in place. And then we had we spent some time with all of our managers and all the teams to say, this is how we're going to run it. This is everything that's going to be in place. And again, it's just that assurance that, yes, you've noted our concerns. And then having that in-person sort of, even dropping off the 16 to 18-year-olds. So the placement teams are supported, for example. It's not just what am I doing? But with the business cases, just going back to some of that as well, I think it's just making those conversations and that iterative process, and then documenting that and presenting that to, however your governance structures, approval mechanisms are within that.
And I think a lot of people will be very jealous of your colleague V and having a central person that is the point of contact and that kind of thing. So again, I'm guessing that came from feedback from students and from colleagues that having a central person would be really helpful. But could you just talk us through a little bit about, again, that post and creating a post and having protected time? Because that's something that people talk to me a lot about. Really hard with training to get protected time and have that recognition. So how did you tackle that?
So that's really interesting. When we started the student placement program, we only just had myself, which was practice educator, and we thought that we could keep this very, very light, actually. We could do a bit of this, and then halfway through the year, we realized that actually this is turning into be something quite different. And actually, we want to make a success of this because the role, it doesn't just support students, it works across to benefit our staff members as well. If we want to properly support portfolios and that kind of thing. So, once we started delivering some of it, it was sort of in tandem. You start to see the benefits, and then the conversations around, having support became a lot easier as well to start to recognize that. And we built that slowly, gradually, and some of it was look, here's the evidence, it's working really well, here's a pilot, and people seeing the benefits, recognizing that, and then investing behind that. And it goes back to we're quite fortunate at Northwestern Pathology. We have a leadership team who understands and wants to invest in this as well. So just going back and giving some proof of concept and starting small, I would always say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Janki. I wonder whether, because you've kind of piloted and expanded and got a really good model up and running, it might be something that maybe you could share. If people are needing some help, we can put them in contact. Like you said, if you can supply the general email, and then they can say, the proof of concept is here. This has happened at Northwest London Pathology, and we want to set up something similar, and that can kind of help them articulate what it is they're trying to do, maybe.
Absolutely, because there's a lot more. Like I said, that's probably another session in itself as well. At the moment we have 9 pathology education facilitators and lots of, and a couple of training managers as well, a practice educator, myself. But that's evolved. That wasn't there 2-3 years ago as well. So yeah, I'm very happy to share some of that with everyone here.
Brilliant, thank you.
We have another question in the chat from Alison. So as a national organisation, we work with a number of HEIs and notice differences in the support offered to students on placements. What do you think should be the minimum for contact between students, workplace, universities, including face-to-face visits and joint teams meetings? So we, at my university, we have a minimum of 2 online meetings with the students, which includes their training officer. But we have 3 drop-in sessions while they're on placement, so that's about 5 meetings online throughout the year. But obviously, if more are needed, then we're prepared to organise more meetings ad hoc, depending on whether it's the student that requires more support or the training officer, that kind of thing. So I don't know, Janki, if you've got anything more to add to that one.
I think I think that's a really good framework, and that's what we go with as well in terms of expectations. It's a partnership, isn't it? And that's really key, that we work really closely with our universities. But I do recognise where that question is coming from as well, and that's really good to have those that baseline sort of expectations driven by the IBMS. That's very, very helpful when we were setting this up. But when we were setting up, I mean, there were a number of universities that we approached and we said, we want to trial a partnership with you. And at the end of it, we didn't actually go forward with everyone. And part of it was, to do with, you may not be meeting some of those minimum expectations. So I think for us, it's just in answer to that question is making sure we're aware. And obviously, Sue, I know you're very helpful in this area as well around what those expectations should be. And for myself, in reality, what I find is there is that minimum. But with our relationships and the ones that we're working with very closely, like we've contacted them today and they've been back in touch, and they'll adjust and they'll provide support in addition to everything else as and when needed, and we do the same as well for them. So there is a bit of that, isn't there?
And you're right, Janki, we have expectations of the university. So when we go around and do accreditation events, we look at the placement documentation really carefully and we ask questions around that. So I know Alison works at NHSBT, I know Alison well, and with a national organisation, you can have students from all over the UK. What I would say, Alison, is if there are inconsistencies in what you're seeing, can you let me know? Because we are very clear with the universities, there should be an early meeting, there should be some pre-placement preparation, and there should be a later check-in. And if there are any issues, there should be really clear pathways to elevate that and to address those issues. So if you're noticing it's not in place in certain organisations in universities, please let me know, because we can have a word and say you're supposed to be doing this, so you need to up your game a bit.
Yeah, so before I came to the university, I don't think we had pre-placement meetings. It was something I introduced, only because I'd got feedback from students that I'd looked after while I was working in the labs, that if they'd have had a pre-meeting, they'd have found that useful just to kind of understand expectations, what to, how the portfolio looks. And I remember running that for the first time when I joined the university. And actually, a lot of placement providers reached out to me to say thank you. The students will come really prepared. They know exactly what the portfolio looks like. They've come in with a folder. This was before the online portfolio on one file, but they all went in with a folder with the 10 dividers, printed out a copy of the reference portfolio, and that really worked. So we've carried on building on that, and I know that lots of other universities do similar things as well.
And it is that clarity of information. That's what you said, isn't it, Janki? That people being clear and making an informed choice, which is why you're doing some of the work experience things. And earlier on, it's really important that students are making an informed choice. They know what the role's going to be, and they've kind of had a look at the labs and they can make a decision. And we know it's hard to facilitate that sometimes in the clinical pathology laboratories. We know how busy everybody is. So there are some initiatives, and I know that in your area, Tahmina, there's some initiatives to look at doing a virtual tour. So at least people can have a bit of an idea. So that's something that the Institute is very much behind, so people can make that informed decision. But there's things that you said about really clear expectations and actually having people buy into that at the start. So if you've got your senior management involved and you've got people who are running the labs, and you're sitting down with the students and saying, this is what we expect of you and this is what you can expect of us, that goes a long way, doesn't it? Rather than just a piece of paper that you signed up to an agreement and actually you haven't really thought about it. So I think that thing that you set up at the beginning is a really strong way to just get that interaction and to make sure everybody's really clear about expectations. So I think that's something that people might take away from today as well.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, it runs now. We've got a recipe that works for us, but there is a bit of investment to be made at the starting off, and it might feel like, oh, this is taking up a lot of energy, but it does get really easy. And when you get, you find your recipe, as to say. An interesting point, Sue, you made around, making informed choices. I just wanted to add something around that, is that's what we found in the first year. We didn't do a lot of this due diligence. We found out retrospectively our attrition there was a little bit higher in that year, and we don't get that now, because what we've done is a lot of pre-engagement with the university students and saying, here's what, we go into the universities, here's what you're going to be expecting, here's what you can be doing, the video tour that you mentioned. So people making those informed choices, and then it just becomes a lot easier for yourselves, the university, and the student as well, because obviously they're investing a lot of time and effort into this as well.
Lovely. I'm not sure if there's anything else coming in the chat to me. I haven't seen anything. Does anybody want to pop their hand up? Is anything people have been ruminating while we've been chatting?
Students raise concerns each year about this is timely, unpaid nature of placements. It would be great to hear any guidance or support you can offer on this. So I was actually going to ask you at the end of this session, Sue, that because I've noticed a lot of placement providers on here, is it worth us sharing our link to the work that we're doing on here?
Absolutely. If you've got the link, let's use the opportunity.
I have. I'll copy and paste it in now. So just to provide context to everyone who's joined, we've got the as part of the Education Professional Standards Committee work, we have a working group who are looking at gathering some information around unpaid placements, what kind of financial support students are being provided, whether that's through the trust or whether it's through universities. So surveys have gone live this morning. We've asked the comms team to share that with universities and to share it in the newsletters. I am just going to copy and paste it into the chat so you can access the surveys, which hopefully will help us to get some data, and then we can move forward on that. But to go back to your question, in terms of offering support, financial support, it varies, doesn't it? Lots of people are doing things very differently, and that's why I guess we've got these surveys to gather that information and look at where the disparities exist. It's also an EDI issue, isn't it? Because we've got students who might not be able to afford the placements and therefore aren't able to accept or secure a placement. Janki, I don't know if you offer any financial support for your students.
I'm just super pleased about hearing the work that you've started around this. I think we collectively, everyone on this call, need to think about this and have those discussions around this. We try to offer as much as we can with our limitations, and that's why I say we've got work to do here. What we do is make it as easy as we can for students, so we know that we dishing out offers as soon as we can. So the ones that we work with, they get the financial support. They can access that even if they're on placement, a student loan and that kind of thing. So that's an avenue and area of support. We work with our universities to see how they can help bridge some of the cost of the placement, and they support with us with some of that and around that. From our perspective, we had to put a case in to make sure that things like vaccinations, we funded that. So that's one element we take away. But there are still, I think we can still go a bit further in this area. So it's really great to see some of this. The other thing is they may not recognize it or realize it, but we actually have a chat with them about how they're going to cope, how they're going to fund themselves, what their plans are, where they're traveling from. We have those conversations with them on a one-to-one with interview, and we look at how feasible this given the support that we have. And then we will say, we want you to sign up to the bank, whether you need it or not, just sign up to it. And our labs will make sure that, we'll go and find those shifts for them. And that's been a really good support. A lot of the other times they'll say, actually, I'm doing this. Can I have this day off? Can I do it in this way? And we say, that's fine, because we know that they've got care or they've got, some other things. So we're as flexible as we can be. But I think that there is some more work to be done in this area.
You're definitely right, Janki. It's something that really doesn't sit well with me at all. We are very much aware it's inequitable that there isn't funding, and it's very different for biomedical scientists compared to other HCPC regulated professions like occupational therapy and physiotherapy. It's definitely on our radar. I've actually filled in a survey this week that's going back to NHS England on exactly this subject, and Tahmina and I are doing the work with other colleagues from EPSC to get this information. So the first thing is we need to get actual data. So we know anecdotally people tell us this is a massive issue from universities, from students and from practice. We need data, and then we can look at the picture and we can get rid of some of those inequities. One of the first things I asked when I was in this role is, can we do this? Can we pay? And we can't. We're not allowed to, because we're a charity and we wouldn't have enough money. We'd be bankrupt quite quickly. So we can't do it ourselves. It needs to be something that is funded nationally, as far as I'm concerned. There are very different situations in different countries around the UK and different lengths of placements. There's all sorts going on. But the bottom line is students can't afford to take placements. That is the bottom line. That's where we are now. People can't afford to give up a part-time job to have enough time to do a placement and to do the reg portfolio, and that's just not fair. People who've got care and responsibilities, like you mentioned, can't afford to do a placement, and that's just not fair. It's not appropriate to ask certain people to take another year student loan and just say, well, that's fine. It's not. So, you know, there is a lot to unpack in this, so that our surveys are the first steps. The more people can fill it in, the better. The more complete our data, the better. And then we can go in with lots of data and figures and say, look, this is a massive problem and this is what we need to do to tackle that. So if anybody can click on the link and fill it in for us, that would be amazing. Whether you're at a university or whether you're a placement provider, we will be making sure people get this, won't we, Tahmina? There's an article that Tahmina's already written to go in the magazine. We will talk about it at Congress. I've asked if we can have QR codes to stick under people's noses so that we can get as much feedback as we possibly can, so that we can get the data and then we can start to tackle the issue. It's something that needs to have been tackled a long time ago and it hasn't, but we know it's a problem and we're trying to do something about it. Okay, is there anything else? Sorry, I felt like I did a bit of a speech then. It's something I'm quite passionate, and Tahmina is as well. We know, and we don't think it's appropriate. So we
need it, don't we? And I think it's right. We turn our attention to it. It just doesn't feel right when we're going back and saying there's nothing there. So
and there's a workforce pipeline. You know, we can't complain, can we, that we've got workforce issues if nationally it's not being addressed, that there is an issue with being able to train people to come into the profession. It's something that's bigger than us and bigger than the institute. It's something that nationally the government or NHS England, before they go, need to get a hold of, because it's not unknown that this has been this situation for a long time. So yeah, it does need to be addressed, and there's a sense of urgency now, isn't there, with people not having the money. So okay, I'm not seeing anything else coming up in the chat. Is there any last minute thing that's occurred to anybody that'd like to just pop their hand up and grab the most of Janki's expertise? It's September, isn't it, Tahmina?
Yeah, 30th of September.
Yeah, end of September, Alison. So we'll keep it open until then, and we'll send reminders as well, won't we, Tahmina, to try and get as much input into that as we can. And I can see you've just popped your hand up.
I've just dropped in our contact. If anybody does have any questions, they can get a hold of us through that way, or yourselves.
Brilliant. Rosalind, you just popped your hand up. Did you want to ask something?
Oh, actually, someone's just put something in the chat. It's the good lab practice that I was interested in. So, but someone's already said, can you share the one-day course you mentioned?
Yeah, is that something that you have, Janki, that you could share if it's an outline or a framework of what you do?
We don't really have anything like that, but we could try and see if we can put something together. If you could get in touch with us, equally, so I'm happy to come on here and talk about it for another session, because it is it's delivered face to face, so we don't have like any handouts or documents or anything like that as such.
Yeah. I'm just answering a question. Sorry, you carry on, Rosalind. I'll answer the question.
I think it would be useful not only for the placement students, but increasingly for our actual technicians.
No, it does make sense. I mean, I can give you a brief outline right now. It's a good laboratory course, and students go through it and they find it tremendously helpful. But we also run, our staff members, every single staff member goes through this induction, and we make it mandatory for everyone in sort of, our medical laboratory assistants, all of AP roles, they all go through this and get a really good baseline of good laboratory practice. So the etiquette of it, a lot of our staff members in those roles, this is the first time they're coming into a lab setting. So it's the basics, the pipetting, the centrifuging, the safety cabinet. That's the sort of items we've set up in our dummy laboratory. And they'll practice, the laboratory information management system, so that again, when they go in, they're, often what happens is you go in and you're waiting to be shown or to do things and that kind of thing. So this is just to fast track their learning, and they start to, as part of this, start to fill out some competencies as well, which really adds value when they go out into some of that, and highly rated. Like I said, probably a whole session in terms of the ins and outs of all of that. But I'm very happy for you to contact me if you or us, if you wanted to have some more information on that. We'll see if we can put something together.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks, Janki.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful. And I think you have alluded to the fact that you're lucky that you've got the space where you can actually have that lab to do the training and to get set up. But just some of the things that you do and how you facilitate it, I think maybe other people might replicate on a smaller scale. But the beauty of having them all together in one room is it streamlines the process for you, but also they all get the same information. So there's a consistency piece there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And, a lot of people might say, well, we don't have this training lab, so we can't potentially do it. And I would say, no, you can. You have other ways of doing it. You can convert the office for a temporary period, or you can try and see if one lab isn't as busy. Maybe could you use it? Because we also have some other type of training that happens in a live lab setting as well. So there are ways forward.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got 5 minutes left until we need to end this, or 4 now. Are there any other last minute questions that anybody wants to ask before we let Janki go? I think it's been a really well received session, Janki. I think everyone's been listening intently to all the good practice you've been sharing, so which is really nice.
Thank you. It's really useful. I think one of the things I might do is share this to all our placement providers within Greater Manchester. If they weren't able to join today, then at least they've got this resource to hand.
Yeah, we can promote it, can't we? We always do. But I can ask colleagues if they can promote it to people who've got placements. And maybe I could ask Mary Helen for the university providers as well. We have liaison contacts that we can share, both Tahmina's and yours, Janki, about what they can expect from the lab and what they could be doing from the university to really help students have a really good start. Yeah. You've got a really nice comment there from Sarah in the chat.
That's really nice. Thank you, I'd say, and to everybody for their comments and questions. I really enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Good. It was a brilliant session. Thank you for agreeing to do it, Janki. Tahmina, brilliant as always, building on your placement provision as well. So really nice package of information, isn't it? And we will get those placement surveys out. Please fill them in, as many people as possible. So I think we're done, Tahmina, if you're happy.
Yeah.
Lovely. Lots of nice comments coming in the chat, which is absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And thank you for giving up your time, Janki, again, for doing the session today. I think it's been a really useful one. Brilliant. Thank you, Jim, for joining us, everybody. And we don't have an August one, do we, Tahmina?
No, don't.
Or September,
actually,
because
no,
of
we don't have one
Congress.
for September. I think we've got one for August. Let me just quickly check. I know people
let's
are
double check and we'll make sure the
but
comms will go out.
yeah. So we have. Oh, yeah. So we don't have one in August or September. But then we've got one in October, November, and December. So the one in October will be around coaching and mentoring for development and success.
Fabulous. So we've got a summer break and then Congress, and then we're back in October. So fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we look forward to seeing you again at the next one.